Flooding sparked by Storm Boris in Central Europe has burst dams, knocking out power and killing at least 18 people as more people were evacuated. In eastern Germany, mobile flood protection walls were set up in some area to protect residents. Old City, now as the Elbe River level rose. Now, Hungarian authorities too braced themselves with locals and military personnel starting to build sandbag dams along the Danube River. Here's a report for more.
Bursting their banks and inundating towns, more rivers across Central Europe have been unable to deal with a deadly deluge of heavy rain from the worst flooding in at least 2 decades. And on Monday, Poland's government declared a disaster in affected areas and said that it had set aside $260 million to help victims. Prime Minister Donald Tusk said his country and others affected would seek financial aid from the European Union. The southern Polish town of Kłodzko was still inundated with water on Monday after border areas between the Czech Republic and Poland were hit hard over the weekend. Surging water levels collapsed some bridges, forced evacuations and left a trail of destruction. And in Nysa, swollen rivers caused a hospital to evacuate its patients, including pregnant women and elderly people in rafts. The country's education minister said 420 schools had been closed across 4 provinces. Water levels in some parts of Poland were not expected to peak until Wednesday. Thousands have been evacuated in the Czech Republic, and in the town of Jeseník, floods stormed through on Sunday, destroying vehicles, roads and homes. Some residents have begun the clean-up after water levels began to drop. This man saw water as high as 2 meters running through the street. He says his house may need to be taken down and the telephone lines are not working. Water and electricity are also out. Devastating impacts have also been felt in eastern Romania, where villages and towns were submerged. Countries along the Danube River, including Slovakia and Hungary, were also on watch as levels were expected to rise. Budapest has declared 12,000 soldiers are on standby to respond. In Austria, the levels of rivers and reservoirs fell overnight as rain eased, but officials were bracing for a second wave as heavier rain was expected.
All right, to understand the drastic changes and extreme events in Central Europe, we're being joined by Svein Tvedal. He's a climate expert and is also the chairman of the Worldview International Foundation and former UN director. Always a pleasure to have you, sir, on the show.
Thank you.
Now, let me begin by asking you, these are places which had experienced heat waves a couple of weeks ago, and now they're going through floods. Is there a relationship between the heat waves and floods that has occurred?
Yeah, definitely. This is kind of mix of special atmospheric conditions, but it is being much stronger from climate change. And let me try to explain. The water here has come from the Mediterranean and the Black Sea. And in August, Mediterranean saw its warmest water ever recorded. And the more the temperature goes up, the more is evaporated of water into the atmosphere. And the atmosphere can store 7% more water for each degree it gets warmer. And now we have reached the limit for the Paris Agreement on having a global warming on 1.5 centigrades. So that means that the atmosphere can hold 10% more water. And this has to come down again. And when it comes down, it very often comes down as we see it now. But this is combined with special atmospheric conditions that makes it even worse.
Absolutely. Now, these regions that are going through so much flood, are we expecting these things to happen, heavy rains and floods in the coming days?
Well, I'm not sure whether there will come more rain, but I have seen that another thing is that if you go high up, the water comes down as snow. And there has been much more snow in the Alps. And it is now predicted warmer weather. So then the snow that has come in the Alps will melt, and this might make the situation worse. So we probably still will see, according to experts, that Danube might be even get even more water in it.
Right. Now, let me just quote some experts. They're unsurprised, as they say, at the intensity of the extreme weather, and they say, but they're shocked by the wreckage that has happened and how unprepared are people. Are we, because these were predicted beforehand, but are we not aware of how much wreckage it is going to cause?
No, because scientists have said very clearly all the time that we will have more extreme weather like this. And then we would think that the world would react by investing in preparedness. But that doesn't happen. So governments are not listening to scientists, and to clean up what we see now in Poland, Austria, Czechia, etc., will cost much more than if they had invested beforehand in preparedness. And in addition to that, this is the short-term thing we can do. But we are not doing enough to stop the global warming, because we have now passed 1.5 degrees last year. And as it looks now, if we don't have a stronger politics, we might reach 2.5 to 3 degrees warming. And that will make extreme weather like this more severe, more intense, and this will come. But every time it comes, scientists are saying, yes, you should have prepared yourself for this, but we haven't. So we have something absolute to learn here, because it gets more and more severe for each time the extreme weather get more intense. And that's why the Paris Agreement say that the world has to stop on 1.5 degree, because if we don't stop on 1.5 degree, this extreme weather will just be much worse, apocalyptic in the future. So this is the situation. This is what is happening if we don't deal with climate change, with stopping emissions and prepare ourselves, and we will see much more of it. So I think we people, we are very intelligent, but we are not very wise.
Right.
If we were wise, we should definitely have done more here, stopping emissions and prepare ourselves for these disasters.
And just last question before you leave us. Now, do you think that these extreme weather events will impact other parts of Europe as well? Now, we know that extreme weather events in one part, it does impact. So you're joining us from Norway. Do you think that any kind of impact we would see in other parts of Europe due to these extreme weather events in Central?
No, I don't think we will. I don't think we will get much of this in Norway. But I see that meteorologists say that it will move south. Boris will move south, and we can have, even if it dries up in the areas that are impacted now, it moves probably south, and parts of Italy might have quite heavy flooding in the aftermath of Boris.
All right. That was Svein Tordal joining us from Norway. Thank you so much for joining us. Always a pleasure having you and listening to your opinions.
Thank you for having me.